All right, I want to start with the basics. What's the first thing you tell your students about the goal of a corporation?
Yeah, it's funny, when we start off a semester in a finance class, we actually get very philosophical very quickly, and we talk about what's the goal of a firm. And it often leads to some very interesting conversation. People obviously talk about profits, but then soon the students will start talking about the importance of employees and customers and community environment. And then inevitably someone will start talking about, hey, I read this thing about stakeholder capitalism. And all of a sudden everyone starts jumping on that, like, what a great idea that is.
It is a good idea.
Yeah. But the challenge there, as we discuss it, is like, I hear you, but at the end of the day, what's really important, what the goal of the firm to do is to maximize shareholder value. And they push back against that. And don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that customers don't matter. I'm not saying that employees don't matter. I'm not saying the community doesn't matter or the environment. But all of those in sum total, if you don't take care of those, you will not maximize shareholder value. But if you start to focus on those other things, you'll become distracted. It's sort of like, is rebounding important? Absolutely. Defense? Most certainly. Passing, shooting, dribbling? All of those are really important. But if you end up focusing on any one of those, and you can win the rebounding game, but you can actually lose the game.
Right. The score is what matters.
The score is what matters.
You're channeling Milton Friedman a bit here.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, and that's the problem, is that stakeholder capitalism, while every stakeholder needs to be cared for,
absolutely.
And as Christians, our duty is to make sure that we're not leaving segments of this nation behind.
To do our work as unto the Lord, we talk about, yeah.
But things can go off the rails.
Yeah.
We've seen this massive wealth gap that's created. We have short-term thinking, for example, at the cost of long-term outcomes. We've been harming the environment. But that, and all of those, stakeholder capitalism wants to focus on those, but what does stakeholder capitalism really mean? Who are the stakeholders?
Yeah, so the stakeholders, as we mentioned, are these other entities. Again, not to minimize their importance, but if you put any of them over the shareholder, you run into problems. If you put the customers over shareholders, you won't have a business. If you put the employees over shareholders, you won't have a business. If you put the community or the environment, all these are really, really important. But, again, kind of back to the Bible, you can't serve two rulers. And, when we get distracted, when we try to, that leads to failure.
Yeah, well, profit is kind of how you measure success, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're not making a profit, do you continue in business? Not for very long, right?
Yeah. No, imagine a coach who says, talking after the game, and he said, we did a great job today. We out-rebounded the other team. We got more rebounds. We got more steals. We had more assists. Yeah, but the other team scored more points than you did.
Right.
The objective in sports is to win the game. The component parts of that are all these other things.
Now, I think President Biden, he might have a limited concept of stakeholder capitalism and said, hey, let's make sure we don't leave out these other groups. He might have that. But there are certain political elements that have a very broad view of stakeholder capitalism. And if you take a really broad view, isn't that really just socialism?
Yeah, that's the concern. And again, to continue our sports metaphor here, we want a level playing field. We have to be relentless of getting towards a level playing field, and we don't. I mean, there's systemic issues that we continue to need to improve and address, and we need fair officials, right? And we need to continue to make the officiating more and more fair in the sense of regulators and a government. But you can't start affecting the outcome of the game. That's not the goal. The goal is to make it a level playing field with fair referees, and let the beauty of the free markets take over from there.
Yeah. Well, my friend Rod Martin, he contrasts what happened in the Russian Revolution with Mussolini's National Socialism. And it really was a brilliant point. He talked about the illusion of private ownership. What happened with Russia is Lenin comes in and they just kill all these people that stand in their way, and they have to wipe out so many people. Mussolini, when he took over in Italy, he did a different approach. He said, hey, look, you own the business, you can continue to own the business, and you can continue to feel like you have a stake in all this. He gave the illusion of private ownership, but then he said the purpose of the corporation is to serve the state. And what they ended up with oligarchs that were controlling everything, and it was, in his mind, a better path to socialism because there wasn't all this mass bloodshed. Unfortunately, you know, we ended up in World War II, and we ultimately had the bloodshed anyway. But the idea was they had the illusion that they had the freedom, and I think that we're seeing a lot of that taking place right now today.